Hello and welcome back to the On the Slab Horror Show, the show that we bring to you each and every Friday night. The lads aren't here, so I'll tell you why we do this on a Friday night, because Friday night is horror night. The slogan's so good, we got it on a t-shirt. This is writer, producer, creator, recently turned director, and a man whose name is attached to one of the biggest horror franchises, as the creator of one of the biggest horror franchises in modern horror and horror in general in Final Destination. This is Mr. Jeffery Reddick. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come on.
Of course, you can put me on the slab anytime.
Absolutely. Well, as it says, you're recently turned director, writer, producer, creator. So tell us how you got started in the business.
Um, it's an interesting story how I got started. I was 14. This all goes somewhere. And I saw the first Nightmare on Elm Street movie, which is one of my favorite movies of all time, the
It
original.
is in fact my favorite horror movie.
It's mine, yeah, it's mine too. Absolutely. So I went home and I grew up in Kentucky, like out in the middle of nowhere, and went home and I wrote a prequel idea. And I found out the president's name of New Line Cinema, which was Bob Shea, and I mailed it to him. And he mailed it back, and he said, "We don't take unsolicited material." So I mailed it back, and I said, "Look, mister, I've watched three of your movies, so I think you can take 5 minutes to read my story." So he actually read it, and he got back to me. And so from age 14 to 19, I would mail him, and they would mail me. His assistant Joy Mann would like mail me scripts all the time, send me like little toys from movies, and it was very encouraging. So
Nice.
I went to college, a great college called Berea College in Kentucky, and I'd always wanted to be an actor. So I got a summer internship when I was 19 in New York to go to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. And while I was there, I got an agent, but then I also got an internship at New Line Cinema. They were like, "Do you want to intern here for the summer?" I was like, "Hell yeah!" Um, and the acting thing the acting thing in the early '90s wasn't working out so well for if for diversity because my agent was like, "Well, if you rapped or played basketball, like there's a lot of roles, or could play like a thug. There's a lot of roles for you, but she's like, there aren't really roles for like a Michael J. Fox, boy next door type who's ethnic." And so I'm like, screw it, I'll just write my own stuff then. And so then I decided to just really focus on writing, and I working at New Line Cinema and learning about the business. And this again was in New York, so I wasn't out in the Hollywood glitz and glamour side of it. I was in the like grinding the sausage, how movies are made side of it, and worked pretty much in every department, and ended up in the last 5 years I was there working in marketing and television. Um,
Nice.
and then yeah, they produced my first film, Final Destination.
I mean, it couldn't have been a better start, really, could it?
Yeah, I mean, and this all was over a long period of time. Like I don't want it to sound like I did because when I moved there I started there in 91, and I didn't sell Final Destination until 97. So there was 6 years in there of me like writing, and things weren't that great, and I had to learn, to be a better writer, and then I had to learn how to stretch. So yeah, and so it was, and also for Final Destination, I went to a producer that I knew who had a deal at New Line. So I took the project to them because I knew if it had a producer attached that they had a deal with, it would have a better shot, as opposed to me just handing it in at the studio. So um,
I mean, you're looking at New Line Cinema, who has produced arguably the greatest film trilogy in
mm, yes,
movie history in Lord of the Rings.
yeah,
Um, you're talking about it, and I know you brought it up there about Nightmare on Elm Street. Nightmare on Elm Street was the first horror film that I watched when I was 11.
hmm
Um, it's still my favorite horror movie. He's still my
oh,
favorite horror character. Like
it,
I have a big Freddy Krueger tattoo on my arm.
yeah. Oh, that's
Uh,
awesome. Yeah, no, I I love that movie, and also when I started working at New Line, like I was there for the creative heyday where they were doing movies like, you know, Dumb and Dumber and
Love it.
Blade and The Mask. Oh, there was one we were talking about before we started the interview that you were surprised they did.
Yeah,
Um,
Austin Powers.
Austin Powers, yes. And these are movies no other studio would do at the time. They'd be like, "This is crazy." And then they did the Lord of the Rings um, trilogy,
Yeah.
which was like huge. Every studio was like, "You guys are crazy. You're going to go under. You're going to yeah, you're gonna this is going to destroy your company." And they took a shot like they always did. Like you don't see that kind of risk
Trust.
taking anymore. And yeah, and
But I
trust in
mean, like when you mentioned one there that stands out, and it's a big favorite to myself and the lads that do this show in Blade. Like
Mm,
Blade was essentially a movie that New Line made that pretty much saved Marvel movies.
yeah. And it's
In
funny
its
because
way, it helped the development that we ended up going on to probably getting the best film saga ever.
yeah, yeah, no, it was, it's funny because I love Black Panther, but they kind of keep forgetting about Blade. I'm like, no, Blade was actually the first Black Marvel superhero movie.
Yep.
Um, and the fun trilogy. I mean, Wesley Snipes, Jessica Biel, like Ryan Reynolds,
Genius.
it's like crazy.
Well,
Um,
three okay wasn't as good as one and two, but like even then, you go back to two, you had Rod and Perlman in there as well.
oh yeah,
Do
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like it wasn't a small cast. You had Chris Christopherson as Whistler.
Oh well,
Like
yeah.
absolutely phenomenal time to be at New Line. Obviously in the nineties, they just hit out so many bangers one after another.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was another one. Like they did so many great things.
I
Um,
love that original trilogy of the Turtles.
Yeah. It was a great time to be there, and it was a great time to work in the industry.
Absolutely, like and as it says, New Line Cinema, renowned obviously for Nightmare on Elm Street and having the slogan "The house that Freddy built."
Yes,
Um, and I mean the mantle was taken on. Really, it's now basically Lord of the Rings is the big name,
the big name. Yeah.
and to be honest, it's rightly deserved because it's um just epic all
It's.
around.
I don't think it. I don't think it'll. I don't think they'll ever really top that. You know. I
It'd
don't.
be very hard. What did I have? 17 or 18 Oscars along the way.
So many Oscars.
Yeah. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's that's not it's just ridiculous. But I mean, you have your own franchise in that industry, in that company
Yeah.
that's continuing as we speak because obviously we're due a new one. But let's touch on the first one. Obviously, you created it, um, and you're forever going to be synonymous with creating easily one of the most memorable ideas in modern horror because it hadn't really been done before.
It was. Yeah. It was. They always say that everybody's afraid of death and taxes, and yeah, there certainly have been people have pointed out that I think there was maybe a Twilight Zone episode that was kind of dealt with this kind of fate thing or whatever. Um, but yeah, the idea that if you cheat death, like death is going to come back and get you, um, was especially at that time because we were still in the slasher
Oh
phase
yeah,
of the industry. So for that period of time, it was definitely something that was new. And I had worked on setting it up. I mean, it took us, me and I worked with Chris Bender, who's a friend of mine, and Craig Perry and Warren Zide. And Craig has really been like, I always just say he's like the godfather of the franchise. He's really helped guide it and keep them going over the years. And we had such a hard time. We had, originally I wrote it with adult characters, and then Scream came out, and then the studio's like, well, why don't we make them teenagers? So I kind of reworked everything to, make them high
hmm.
schoolers going on a trip to France. Um, and they, they they loved the idea that death was coming after them. They loved the idea that there was this pattern, death's design, that they were dying, or they would have died in the crash, but they couldn't get their minds around us not wanting to show death. Like, because, I this originally started off as an X-Files script. I used to get an agent. I never
So
sent it to the
that
X-Files.
that was a question that I was gonna ask because I had read that somewhere before that it was originally going to be set, going potentially to be an X Files episode.
No, because I never actually submitted it. Like I wrote it to get an agent,
Uh,
because at the time the writing agents were like, well, write something that's on TV, that's popular, that you like. So I used the idea as an X-Files episode and had Scully's brother be the one who had the premonition, and then, you know, the people that got off the plane started dying, um, and everybody thought he was the murderer because they were dying and nobody was seeing any murder because we weren't
and he
showing
was
it.
popping up at every
And it
stage.
was yeah, and he was having blackouts and stuff. Um, so one of my friends at New Line, read it before I sent it off to the agent. He's like, "Do not have them send this over to the X Files. Like this is a great idea for a movie." Mark Kaufman was my friend that did that. So I'm really glad he did. But yeah, it's over the years, like things get, I know people, it says online like it was sent to the X Files, but then didn't get made, and then, it got picked up by, the X Files guys, but I had never submitted it. But I was very happy um, that James Wong and Glenn Morgan, who did some of my favorite work on the X Files, were brought onto the project. Like I remember when Bob Shea asked me, what do you think about these X Files guys? I was like, holy shit, they would be great. They would be great. And it felt like for me like kind of karmic because I'd originally written it, as an X Files
But
episode. So it felt like creatively karmic to have them coming in and doing the film.
I mean, like in all fairness, if you're going for something horror around that time, the X Files was one of the biggest shows on TV. So like, why wouldn't you? And it's a great idea to be able to write it in a way that it would make an episode. Although I don't think it would have made a good episode because it's too detailed for 45 minutes.
Yeah, we kept it a little more. There were fewer people that got off the plane.
Oh, okay.
For the TV episode. There were fewer people. Um, yeah, there were fewer people that got off the plane in that, so that's how we kind of kept the countdown. I still like this script. It's still a fun script to go back and read because it was a different. You know, Projects always evolve. Like that's the
Yeah.
one thing I love about the business is I'm very collaborative and I love working with other people, and certainly when anybody brings me a great idea, like my friend came up with the title for Final Destination, because we knew originally called it Flight 180, and it's like, well, if this gets a sequel, then what are we going to do? Call it Flight 181 and 180, like, so we needed a new title and could not think of anything. And my friend Brett Leitner came into the office one morning. He's like, you know what? When we landed last night, they said you've reached your final destination. And he goes, and that's kind of like, the end of life is your final destination. I was like, that's a great fucking idea. So I called up Bob and he's like,
That one.
yeah.
That'll do, pig. That'll do.
That'll do. So there's so many interesting things that, so many twists and turns that happen when you get a film made. And I always tell people like my original version of the script was very Nightmare on Elm Street based. So since death didn't kill them the first time, it was playing on their survivor's guilt and making them commit suicide. Um, and the
Nice.
studio thought that was too dark. And then they also, before they actually would buy the project, they made us put like a little angel of death in there, so it would kind of you'd see this shadowy figure, in the
Yeah. The little guy.
taunting
It's
them
like
and stuff, but not like chasing them around, but it was just like, this thing taunting them from the shadows and mind fucking with them, and and it was really dark. So when Glenn and James, came on and they wrote the shooting script, and they came up with the Rube Goldberg idea, which I thought was brilliant because I thought it just opened the franchise up more than just horror fans because I think mine would have still done gangbusters with like hardcore horror fans, but I think the Rube Goldberg aspect of it, you know, opened it up to an audience that normally wouldn't go see horror films because it wasn't as hard, and it was creepy that stuff, death would
because
use things around you to get you.
I know, like I have a lot of relations that really enjoy the franchise
Yeah,
that wouldn't be they wouldn't like horror really at all. And
really.
to
Yeah,
me, yeah, to me, like I know it's a horror film,
right.
but it's more like a dark thriller really because technically you don't see much happening or it's just unfortunate accidents. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a
Um,
build up too. Like, you don't, there's a lot of misdirection and trying to figure out how death is going to get them. I think that that's another reason that it's kind of had the legs that it's had. I mean, the funniest thing to me is like, I mean, obviously that, I'm so proud of the concept, but I think the proudest thing I am is like, we were having such a hard time with the opening for the second one. And, I'm from Kentucky, so I was driving home to visit my family and I got behind a log truck and then I just pulled over. And I was like, I hate those fucking log trucks. And then it hit me, like, what if one of those chains broke? And so then I pulled off the highway and I called the producer and he's like, that's our opening. And um, J. Mackey Gruber and Eric Bress wrote the script. Like I co-wrote the story for the second one. Um, and they did a great job with the script. I think finding the humor and the characters. But David Ellis, who's no longer with us, was a stuntman, and so we didn't write out like a detailed breakdown of that highway scene because we knew that what he would come up with would be probably better than anything that we could think of since he worked in the stunt world. And that's still one of my favorite opening scenes, like top five opening scenes.
So I have a text message here from just before when we jumped on from one of the other lads, Tombstone Ted, from how it feels to have written a scene that literally has everybody thinking about what they're doing when they're driving behind a log truck.
No, it's because I'm a lifelong horror fan, so it's especially writers a lot of times don't get remembered or thought of, but that's I that knowing that is kind of that was my thing. Like, and again, I loved what Eric Bress and J. Mackey Gruber did with the script. Like that number two is actually my favorite of the first. Yeah, number two is like my favorite. It's just I
Oh
think
no,
the humor and the and we I tied back in that the people that were on the highway wouldn't be alive if the people in the first movie hadn't lived past their time to die. So that whole ripple effect outward, and bringing back like another character, an original from the first film, like those were all kind of things I love doing in sequels. But just that knowing that kind of inspiration that just hit me on the drive home to see my family would turn into like a memes. I mean, literally, I still get like tagged on stuff pretty much every day, you know.
yeah.
So, it's pretty amazing. Just again, as a fan, it's very humbling and it's just amazing.
I think the franchise itself was so good, and obviously the first one was there. Like I said to you, I watched the first one I think when I was a lot younger, and I didn't watch it up again until a couple of weeks ago. Now we do on the show every Halloween we do a quiz, um, and Ted was the host last year, and he put in the question of who done the voice of the devil in three.
Mhm.
Right now, I'd completely forgotten that Tony
Oh,
Todd had done the voice or had been in the first one and the second one.
yeah,
So I had to guess. I was like, who else are you going to pick in terms of horror for voiceover? And I was like, it has to be Tony Todd.
yeah,
So
yeah.
like you've got Tony Todd to come in and essentially play the voice of death, really.
Yeah, and
Like,
but honestly, I mean, people read a lot into that, but the thing is like I don't know if it was scheduling or I don't know or budgeting or whatever, but yeah, they didn't originally write. I don't think people realized how important he was necessarily. I mean, I shouldn't say. I don't think the executives knew how much the fans were connecting with his character.
Yeah.
Like I could see it on the horror sites, but the studio's only looking at, box office
Right.
stuff. And I'm like, everybody's
Absolutely.
fascinated by Tony Todd and his character. Like he's crucial. And so they didn't shoot him for the third film. And then when I think fans saw that he wasn't on IMDb, they started getting really worked up. So they're like, well, we'll make him the voice of the devil. Like, we'll put him in there. So they didn't make that mistake again with this other sequels. Like,
Yeah.
they brought him back, and he's going to be in the new one as well. So, um,
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
oh no, it's been online. It's been online. I'm not spoiling.
I'm legitimately avoiding almost anything I can find on it.
Okay.
There's a
I,
certain few horror films this year that I'm avoiding. Sorry, I haven't watched the ads, or I've seen the still, obviously, of the boat. Um, but I will try and avoid it as best I can. I probably won't watch the ads till it comes out.
that's
Um, I'll I'll try and go see it in the cinema when it comes out, like the day it comes out, so it doesn't get ruined for me.
yeah,
But like when I sat and rewatched this franchise not so long ago, it's the first time I'd seen three, four, and five. Um, but I was like, okay, the idea kind of stays the same that that's going to come. So like the story is relatively the same, but the creative nature that the lads created in terms of kills and the storyline
yeah,
was just off the charts.
yeah, yeah. And this new one, the new one, I'm not spoiling anything. It's just they've got such a great team. John Watts, who um, wrote and directed the Spider-Man trilogy with Tom Holland. He came up with this story. We had Laurie Evans. I was going to say Stevens. I get Laurie Evans and Guy Busey, who did the Scream reboot, wrote the script. Uh,
They
uh,
were brilliant as well, though, to be fair.
yeah, Adam Stein and Zach Lipinski. Every time I start to say people's names, I start thinking, am I saying their names right? They did Freaks, which it was amazing. So they're directing, and um, so I feel like they're bringing like an 18 because it's been like 13 years since the last one.
Is it that long? Is it?
Yeah, yeah. Let's not start thinking about how long it's been, but it's been 13 years. So I'm really just excited. But from everything that I've seen so far, I mean, it's going to be really.
Will you get out to the premiere of it?
Oh yeah, I'll be at the premiere of it.
If not, I'm taking back the rights to using them.
No, no, I'll definitely be at the premiere, but yeah, I'm just so excited, and um, especially when you have like great people working on it, like we've always had really good people work on it, and
I mean, even the casting was brilliant. Obviously, Tony Todd was probably the biggest name in horror,
mhm.
but you Devon Sawyer come in probably just off the bat. Or was it just before he done Idle Hands and stuff? But he was huge.
It was huge.
Uh, Sean
Mhm.
William Scott was at the start of his crest of a wave. Obviously, went on to do American Pie and stuff.
Yeah, like just a funny bit of information on that is Craig Perry, the producer, produced American Pie. So he's basically produced one of the coolest, in my opinion, and one of the horror franchises and one of the coolest comedy franchises. But he was working with Sean William Scott, and he told the studio, he's like, "You've got to use this kid in the movie. You got to use him. He's going to be a star." And
I think
um,
he gets a bad rap in terms of not being cast in a lot of stuff that he should have been. He's a much better actor than people give him credit for.
no, he is, and but I also I don't know him personally, so I'm just speaking from what I've kind of gleaned from, but he's also seems like he's just a quiet person. Like, there's a part of Hollywood where, you've got to like be out there all the time and out of sight, out of mind. And he's a really good actor. I just don't think he was big on going out and, you know, you know, doing the
Keeping his name there.
and stuff like that. But He's a great actor. I mean, Devin, I think gives like such a amazing performance in the first one, because I wanted to switch it up and have a final guy instead of a final girl in the first movie.
It
And I
was a
think
big switch that is in terms of horror as well, especially around that time.
around that time, yeah. And Devin just kills it. And yeah, the whole cast is great. Like, I don't think there's not a bad. I was gonna make a joke and see if there's any animals in there that like not even the puppy was bad, but I don't think there were any animals in there. But like, yeah, the whole cast did a phenomenal job.
There is.
Um,
There's a cat in there. The teacher has a cat, doesn't she?
um,
So the one that gets when the knife falls on her. Didn't she have a cat that all starts with the cat doing something? Am I wrong with that?
you might be right. That scene is so fun because the uh, writer producer is married to her, Kristen Cloak. She's a great actress. And it's funny when I watch that scene because I'm like, he kills the fuck out of her. You know what I'm saying? Like that must have been like the most like like that must be the most fun scene to like do with your spouse. That's like, well, not only going to murder you, but I am going to murder you so much on
I,
film.
I'm gonna fuck you up.
You know, um, so yeah, so we got lucky with Keir Smith from Dawson's Creek and Amanda Ditmore, Todd Danella, who still is having an amazing career, the detect guy Daniel Roebuck, and I start blanking on names when I know that I'm going to start listing them. But yeah, like we've had such a great cast. Like the part two, same thing. AJ.
AJ Cook.
Yeah, had a great career. Like we've had a lot of people go on from Final Destination and do
Oh
great
yeah.
things. And
I mean, like horror really does. Like we brought it up on the show a fair few times. Horror on its own has spanned the start of a lot of really talented actor and actresses' careers.
yeah.
And like everyone gives like horror, the horror community is probably the closest knit community in terms of film.
Hmm.
But like outside of, if you're not a horror fan, you give horror movies an awful lot of shit.
Oh, no, it's been something I noticed before I worked at New Line. New Line was never like that. New Line was very respectful of the genre, and knew how valuable it was. But critically, it's just there are performances that should have got Oscars in horror films, and the fact that they never do, it's very it's just it's just snobbery, you know.
Well, I actually was only speaking about this in work the other day. We were talking about the Oscars, and I said that Nightmare on Elm Street should have at least got one for best makeup.
Hmm. Yes.
Um, Obviously, Freddy Krueger is the most iconic horror character to me, um, and probably the most recognizable face in terms of not behind a mask.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
Um,
special effects, I think I mean at least if they were gonna throw horror a bone, um,
that was it.
yeah, they could have done something. But um, yeah, they it doesn't matter like how much well the movie does, how well what level of talent's in it. Like they just are never. I think Get Out is probably the closest thing to a horror film that we're gonna get. But that was I consider it horror, obviously, but it was more like slow burn, creepy under your skin kind of horror. So um, elevated horror, I guess you would call it. So
I
maybe
hate that term. I
I I
hate it.
I do too. I do too.
Ironically, that movie you just brought up, listeners to this show will know my grievances with Jordan Peele. I cannot stand any of his movies.
That's so funny. No, the thing is, I did love Get Out because I knew nothing about it going into it. So I love Get Out. I love I love the first half of Us. You know,
The premise was brilliant for that.
yeah, yeah, and I love the first half. I just got confused about what the hell was going on with the rest of the movie. Um, and yeah, and I enjoyed Nope for what it is. I mean, I think the thing with Jordan Peele, he's definitely a horror fan, but he's got his own because he comes from a comedy background too. He's just got his own way of doing, of doing things, and he's in a position where he can
He can
kind of
do
make
it.
whatever he wants. He's kind of like, M. Night, Shyamalan, who can kind of make whatever they want.
He's another
And
Marmite director, isn't he? Like you
huh?
either he's another Marmite director. You either love him or you hate him.
Yeah, I don't know if people hate. Hopefully, people don't hate him because he's a
Well,
very
sorry,
nice.
like hate the movies.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, because he's like from everything that I've seen, like he's a really nice guy. Um, but yeah, like yeah, no, the movies because they're not traditional. Like that's the thing. He's got a very distinct vision. Like that's why with us, it's like I didn't know what the rabbits were watching at the beginning of the movie, but then, this stuff when the doubles start showing up, it's like terrifying, and then it goes into esoteric kind of
It's
territory,
like
and so you're trying to parse out what he's saying at the end of the film for me. Um,
I'm more thinking how much acid did he drop when he was writing that script?
yeah,
Um,
I think that's what's great about art in general is there's like because I tend to write very I try to write really fun horror movies, like not super like dark gratuitous kind of horror movies, but I just finished a new script like 3 weeks ago. No, well, like finished it with my agents. I've read it and stuff like that. And we've sent out to some of the horror places, and they're like, "This is too dark." And I'm like, "It's a fucking horror movie. What do you mean it's not like it's not like I'm doing anything like raping women or you know, going
yeah,
so over the top, but they're just like, no, no, but it's just too dark. Like there needs to be like,
but these,
a happy kind of ending. And I'm like, no, I mean, and this isn't spoiling the movie. Like, doesn't mean the ending doesn't have any happiness or resolution, but it's getting very plus I have a gay lead character, so I think maybe part of it is, they're just
I'm
deflecting a bit of that.
like, am I thinking like this? Probably, I'm not naming any studios in particular, but like this is probably the same studio that probably would have jumped the gun and signed Terrifier 3. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, well,
Do you know what I mean? Like,
but
I'm not
Terrifier,
saying it is that studio. I'm just saying,
yeah, but two Terrifier, but that became like such a sensation. So, I'm very happy for Damon Leone because it's so hard to make a movie. It is so
oh,
hard to make a movie.
I love it now,
Yeah,
but
it's so hard to make it a movie at all. That I always stay grateful for stuff, even if it doesn't turn out like I envisioned it. Like it is so hard to get a movie made because there's so many things that could go wrong. Um, so I always love it when like there's like an underdog story
oh,
where something
absolutely.
takes
Like,
off.
watching that, like it didn't make it to the cinema over here, which is a shame because I'd love to have seen it in the cinema.
Yeah.
But it ran alongside Halloween Ends. Do you know what I mean? Which was tipped to be the biggest movie
Oh,
of the year.
oh yeah, that
And
was a that was a interesting movie.
I I like Halloween Ends. I'm one of the few that liked it. I really liked it. Um,
I think I would have liked it. I think my biggest issue is it feels like they were setting this movie up to set up uh
the next one. And I thought it was a great double cross.
just to set him up as the next Freddy or the next Michael Myers, and then they decided at the end like it felt like to me like they decided, oh well, we've got to have Jamie Lee Curtis kill Michael Myers at the end of the film, so we can't just like we got to have her kill him before so Michael and her can have their showdown.
I
Um,
I was like I thought that was a brilliant double cross. I know a lot of people hated it and they
yeah,
focused too much probably on that story. I know a lot of people didn't like it because there wasn't enough Michael Myers in it, but I really enjoyed it. Like I thought it was very very good.
Well, I mean,
Um,
that's a great thing about movies. Everybody has an opinion, and like anybody that likes a movie, I don't like begrudge their opinion. You know, it's just because I've liked some stuff that people are like, "Are you crazy? Like that movie's shite."
no, I can't say anything because like I watch a lot of
Oh,
junk, and a lot of it I like.
yeah. No,
Um,
I
like
every
I'm renowned for not like people always slag me over like technically my favorite franchise in horror is Wrong Turn.
I the first couple were great.
Yeah, I see.
Um,
I love the first one. The first one was phenomenal.
Turner's was
Um,
phenomenal. The
then
second,
no, I think number four is the second best one of the lot. The one in the snow, bloody beginnings.
okay,
Over
I may have to go back and watch that. I have popped them on. You know, I still will watch them. I mean, I went through. What's the other franchise that I went through? The other, I'll think about it in a second. There was another one where I just went through them, and it's kind of in the wrong turn arena. I'll
the
think
hill.
about
It
it. But
wasn't Hill Survives, was it?
no.
Yeah,
Um,
they were good as well. The
oh, the
remakes were better.
Leatherface movies. There's so many Leatherface movies.
Yes.
Uh, some yes, some better than others, and some not good at all. But um,
Like I'm one of the few that actually likes Leatherface 3D.
well, I worked at New Line, did that too.
Yeah, I'm one of
And
the few that like that.
that was one David Scow wrote, right?
The
With
one with Alexandra Daddario.
oh no, that's a different one. Okay. You know the funny thing is I liked it while I was watching it until the end when
Oh
it
yeah,
was just like
the whole
be
Desert
part of our
yeah
yeah.
Desert Chainsaw because that wrecked it. That wrecked the ending of it, and it wouldn't have been a bad movie up until then.
Yeah.
Beginning was quite good with Stephen Dorff.
Oh yeah.
Um, I think one of the small few that think the '03 remake was better than the original one.
The which one?
The '03 remake, the one with Orly Emery and Jessica Biel.
Oh, the Leatherface remake. Oh,
No, the actual Texas Chainsaw one, the Michael
yeah,
Bay
Texas.
one.
Yeah.
I think that's
Um,
better. I think that's better than the original one.
it's interesting because I think as a time capsule, you know, the original is always going to be like on top 10 because it's a time capsule of
Mm,
you know it had never been done before. It was original, but I loved the remake. I will say that was the first one that they did. So I'm like, oh wow, they're going to really put out some great remakes from now on. And then it started, then
Yeah,
it started going
that
down.
went well, didn't it?
Yeah.
It went nosedive very quickly.
Yes.
We won't even talk about '09 because yeah,
Yeah.
that brought a painful one to head.
Hey,
But
you talking about the last one, the one that was on, um, where they brought
the
Sally back and then just like killed her for
oh,
no, like in 10 seconds and then threw her on a pile of trash. Yeah, that was
see
I don't
that we done a review for that the week that it came out, and I'm almost 100% sure I broke the world record for swearing.
know.
I despised it. I will never ever watch that movie again. Ever.
Yeah, yeah,
It was horrendous. Now, if you had have made that movie and called it something completely different, it mightn't have been that bad.
yeah,
But the fact that it absolutely nukes the original story, you're like, what even is this?
yeah, yeah.
But then again, that's for a
But
different day.
people make yeah, people and again, it's so hard to get a movie made in this town that you just never know what sparks somebody and God love them because you know I want that spark to keep coming back to me so I can do
Uh,
my next horror opus.
we digress now. So, have you anything upcoming? I know you said you finished a screenplay recently, but have you anything else upcoming or due out
Not
soon?
right
Or
now. I just did a, you know, wrote a new script that's making the rounds. Have a couple other projects I'm working on. Um, doing a convention, horror on Main, June 27th, which is going to be in Philadelphia. um, or Pennsylvania. See, I'm so here.
Nice.
Yes, PA means Pennsylvania.
Oh,
Um, so I'm excited about
yeah.
that. Um,
I see. I've only ever been to one con. We don't get cons over here, so we had to travel to the UK last year to go to one.
oh, they don't do any there.
No, oh sorry, there is one that happens in I think it's in Kilkenny, and it's from 12 or 10 in the 10 in the morning till like 3 in the afternoon, and that's it.
Oh man, it's so funny because I always find like when somebody would start will do when somebody does a horror like even somebody started one back near my hometown, which is out in the middle of nowhere, and it was the first one, and nobody thought anybody would come to that area, but we had people coming from like all the surrounding states. It was crazy for the first year. Um,
Where was that?
Kentucky.
No, what one was it? Sorry,
Oh, it was in eastern Kentucky. It was like Pikeville. It was oh my God, I forget the name of it. Um,
it's not one of the huge name ones, is it?
no, no, it's
Oh,
a small. It was a small one, but we had so many people show up for that. Um,
that's great though. It just shows how close knit the community is.
yeah, and it's everywhere, and it's just like if you guys got a convention going over there, there'd be a lot of people that show up for it.
Now, so obviously you do the conventions and you do signings and stuff.
Yeah.
Like you'd see, like how weird is it to just be involved? Like you could have anybody at the table next to you.
Um, I usually I'll just sit wherever they put me, to be honest.
No, no, but
Like,
that's what I mean. Like I'm not saying you pick where you go, but like you could be sitting next to say Kane Hodder. You could be sitting next
oh,
to.
well, no, I've had fun. I mean, I've sat next to like Tony before. Yeah,
I'd
I've
listen
sat
to that man. I'd listen to that man talk all day.
Oh yeah, yeah. And even if I'm not sitting by them, like I know most of the, especially from the movies I grew up idolizing. Like I know all the, the Elm Street ladies and, Rob Rustler from the first movie, and I've met Mark Patton from the second, and I've met the Dream Warriors. Like so, um, I've got to meet all those people. Like a convention I just went to, I got to meet like Elijah Wood. Um,
Nice.
nicest guy. Like, first of all, I mean, I think he's only late 30s, but he just still looks like,
About
smooth
12.
eyes. I'm like, you must have like, yeah, Dorian Gray, some kind of deal. But he's the nicest, like, most down to earth, like, guy that you would ever want to meet. And
So
it's I,
that con we went to in the UK, Neil, one of the guys who helps put it on and does a lot of the work for it.
mm,
He was actually working with Elijah Wood this weekend at Liverpool Comic Con,
mm,
and I was like, he's just like, what a job.
I know.
Uh, Like I'd love if there was con. Well, actually, I wouldn't because I'd be broke and my wife would probably kill me if there was cons here all the time.
Oh yeah, no, that would not be good for you to die for
No, no.
that.
Like I went to, as I said, I went to the one last year and I got to meet Lauren Lavera.
Oh, nice.
I met Lauren Lavera. I met uh, John Jarrett, who was Mick Taylor in Wolf Creek,
Oh, okay.
and
Oh, it's
we
a
met
good movie.
we met Doug Tate. Who's just a legend. He's been on the show before. And I got to meet Quinn Lord, who was Sam in Trick or Treat.
Oh,
Uh, it was great. Like
cool people. Yeah,
just phenomenal.
always fun.
I met Billy Ritt as well from the Lost Boys.
Yeah. No, the conventions are always fun. They're just always fun. I love doing them, and so, that's why. Yeah, I usually don't turn down a convention opportunity if I have one, just because it's a great chance to meet the fans and yeah, especially in Hollywood, like a lot of actors get most of the attention. So horror is one of the rare genres where they know like the writers, and the directors or producers. So it's just cool to like go and meet the fans.
Maybe one year, hopefully the lads will pick you up for the love of horror. It'd be great to get you over.
Oh, that'd be fun. Absolutely.
Um, but as I says, I didn't want to hold you all night because it's still somewhat
Oh
the
no,
daytime for you.
no problem, no
Um,
problem.
but we'd absolutely love to have you back on to pick your brain about some of your favorite horror movies
Absolutely,
in the future.
absolutely, absolutely. And
Um,
you can always follow me. My X, ugh, Twitter handle and Instagram handle is Jeffrey A. Reddick. Um, so that's kind of where I do most of my posting because I just post about either mostly I post like supporting my friends' movies or movies that I love, but I also if I get some updates on stuff, I'll post on there too. But I definitely post more about oh, I just saw this great horror movie or my friends got this thing coming out.
I do that too.
Yeah, yeah, it's more fun than just promoting myself all the time. Like
or, or or I'll share funny reels that I see along the way.
oh yes,
That's always a bonus.
yeah.
Um,
So
but
that'll
as you
have all
says,
my anything new I'm working on, conventions I'm going to, um, and things like that, and a lot of cat pictures of my cats. So
don't like cats. Not a cat man. But Jeffrey, it's as I says, it's been a pleasure and an absolute thank you for coming on.
of course, thank
Um,
you.
again, shout out to James and the lads over there at
Hey,
Davidson and Talent Co. for hooking this up,
yeah, James.
doing some wonderful things. That man is.
Thank
Every day I just see this is a new client. This is a new client. And I'm like, God damn man, take a break.
you. We take breaks when we die.
That's
So
it. Sleep when
yeah,
we're dead.
sleep when we're dead.
Uh, Um, but Jeffrey, I know this one was a lot more about Final Destination, and we didn't touch on a lot of your other projects. So, as I says, definitely love to have you back on.
Yeah, it'd be my
Um, and absolutely, we'll line it up for some time in the near future when you're not so busy with cons upcoming and stuff. So,
absolutely. I look forward
and
to it.
hopefully, everyone comes out at the end of June there for you in Pennsylvania. Was it
Oh
Pennsylvania?
yeah,
You did say Pennsylvania, didn't
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'm
you?
gonna just Google this really quick because I'm yes, Pennsylvania because PA is Pennsylvania, and I think I always want to say Philadelphia because I've never been to Philadelphia, but I wrote a script based that's set in Philadelphia, so it's always in the top of my head. But Pennsylvania, yeah,
I've never been to Philadelphia either.
um,
So that makes two of us.
yeah, it's going to be in Harrisburg, and on the 27th through the 29th, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
So will you stay there then for that whole weekend, like in a, or
Yeah,
can you
I'll be there
drive
the
from
whole
where you
weekend.
are?
Yeah, I'll be there the whole weekend.
Nice, nice, nice. So anybody that's listening that's heading out
Couple,
there,
couple of yeah, there are a couple of other final. Jonathan Cherry, Tracy Keegan, uh, both from Final Destination 2 are going to be there. And I'm blanking, thinking I'm saying her name wrong too. Sorry, it's funny. I had a very long Zoom meeting before our call, going over the new project. So I got a
I,
little caffeine in me this morning, but not
I
a
I've
lot.
I've broken him.
No, no, you didn't break me. I just the names. When it comes to names, I always start second guessing myself. We have some great guests. Yeah, that I'm a couple
Absolutely.
of Final Destination alum I'm going to be there with, so it'll be a great time.
Make sure you make your way over to Al Jeffrey's table there
Or on Main is the convention. Yeah.
and have a chat with him. I'm sure he's more than willing to have a chat with you.
Oh God, you can't shut me up once you yeah no can't shut me up.
Well, we'll see. We'll see one day if we make it to a con that you're there. We'll line it up somewhere and see.
Oh, okay. No, I get a lot of energy when I go to the cons and start interacting with the fans. It's a lot of
How
fun.
much caffeine does one man take? All of it.
A lot.
Yeah. But as for now, folks, this has been your Friday night
Thanks for spending the
with
Friday night horror with me.
Jeffrey Reddick, creator of Final. And as we all hope that it won't be, or that it will be, that it won't disappoint is what I meant to say.
Oh, it won't. It won't.